Well, it says we're live. Hello, everyone. It's Tuesday, 4 o'clock Pacific, 7 o'clock Eastern, 1 a.m. here in Italy, 8:30 a.m. in Eastern Australia. I hope I've got that right, and 9:30 a.m. in Western Australia. Someone will let me know if I've got it right, which side of the country it's on. And it's Facebook Live. And I'm really happy and proud to be here today with not only Michelle Ross, our Director of Clinical Services, but our entire team of clinical services. So we wanted to say hello. I'd like everybody to, all of you to see who is it behind those smiling keyboards when you're asking questions, and when you schedule consults. And so Michelle, can you, first, it's good to see you.
Good to see you, Dr. Tom. Always happy to be here. I look forward to our monthly chat.
As do I. And would you please introduce our team?
I would be honored to. It's so great to have our team, our amazing team here. So let's start with Dr. Pooja Matani, and she is one of our functional medicine practitioners. And Pooja, tell us where you went to school.
So hi everyone. I'm Pooja, or Dr. Pooja. I received my doctorate in pharmacy from Rutgers University in New Jersey, and then I went on to get my master's in nutrition from the University of Western States, which is based in Portland, Oregon.
Awesome. And what brought you to functional medicine?
So that is a great question. And I think actually when I ask other people this question, it seems like there's a theme in that it was their own journey that brought them to functional medicine or functional nutrition. And that resonates with me as well. It's the same thing. So I for many years, I was dealing with hormonal imbalances, namely PCOS and fatty liver disease and IBS. And I kind of chipped away at it one condition at a time, and I did a lot of trial and error on my own before I decided to formalize my education in integrative and functional health.
Wonderful.
Pooja, I've got a question for you so that people know. What percentage of the population has fatty liver disease?
Oh my goodness. Well, I can't tell you the percentage of the entire population that has fatty liver disease, but I can tell you that in women with PCOS, the incidence of fatty liver disease increases significantly because it's the insulin driving force that causes what causes the same symptoms in PCOS. Like the androgen upregulation is the same thing that drives the fatty liver disease.
So I'm sorry, I did not mean to put you on the spot. I should prep you ahead of time. It's 1/3. One-third of the population in the United States it's called NAFLD, non-alcoholic fatty liver disease. And what is fatty liver disease? It's like buying a piece of steak at the butcher's. There's some that's all meat and there's some that's streaked full of fat. And that for most of us, for a third of us, our livers are streaked full of fat. It's fatty liver disease. And it's because we've grown up on way too much sugar and way too much of the wrong kind of fats. And our livers, which are an oil filter, can't filter that stuff after you get plugged up livers, plugged up oil filters. So, we look at someone like Pooja, who is young and lovely, and you say, what? Fatty liver disease? How could someone have fatty liver disease at her age? 1/3 of the adult population in the US has NAFLD, non-alcoholic fatty liver disease. That's how common it is.
Thank you.
Great to know that you can reverse it.
That's right. That's exactly right.
And both Dr. Pooja and Barbara have completed all of the Institute of Functional Medicine modules. And they both are certified as nutrition, what is it? CNS, it's
certified nutrition specialist.
Thank you, and licensed dietitian nutritionist. I should know this because I have the same certification, so I should be able to rattle that off. But anyway, thank you for helping with that. So Barbara Sobel is our functional medicine nutritionist, and she's fairly new to the team, but I've known her for several years and gotten to see her work. And so we're really happy to have you here, Barbara, working with us. And where did you go to school?
Thanks, Michelle. I'm excited to be here too and be part of this wonderful team. I went to Maryland University of Integrative Health, MUIH, it's sometimes called. And I got a master's in nutrition and holistic health there.
So we represent the three main schools. I went to University of Bridgeport. So the three main schools in functional medicine nutrition that are in the United States right now.
My friend, Dr. Liz Lipsky,
Yep.
ran or started that program. And as a matter of fact, she just sent me her new book, the 5th edition of her book, which is just an excellent text for everyone if you want to understand about digestion. And this is, once again, the 5th edition of it. I just got this yesterday from her. So that's great,
That's
great
awesome.
training. Great training at University of Maryland. Really great.
Absolutely. We're all big Liz Lipsky fans, that's for sure. Yes. And what brought you into this field?
Same experience as Pooja. I had my own experience with chronic disease, and in the conventional medicine world was having difficulty getting properly diagnosed and treated. And for me, really the root cause was a mold exposure that I couldn't see or smell. And it ended up affecting my energy, my digestion, and my hormones. So it took a while to kind of peel back the layers and figure out what was really underneath and what was causing my issues.
We work with that on a daily basis. And I guess you get to that point where you see your own health struggles as a gift because you're able to kind of catch it in other people, right? Yeah. And help them to shorten the duration of their health journey.
Yeah, and it's a lonely, long journey. So that's why I wanted to be able to help other people so they didn't have that same experience that I did.
Yeah, thank you so much. We're glad you're here. And Tiffany is our wonderful admin as well as our functional medicine health coach. So she kind of wears two hats and she does both so beautifully well. So Tiffany, we're so glad you're here. And thank you so much for all of your amazing support. So you're probably that touch point that most people connect with on a regular basis, but you did the online Institute of Functional Medicine coaching training, right?
Yeah, it actually went through Functional Medicine Coaching Academy, and they're in collaboration with IFM. So yeah, went and got my health coach certification through them.
Wonderful. And what brought you into this field?
Like most of us, my own experiences and health journey, and I could only take it so far myself. You know, I've always been one to try and find root cause issues. What's causing this? But, you know, I don't have the medical background. So as soon as I hit a wall and I couldn't get any further in my healing is when I actually stumbled onto a podcast it was with Sandra Scheinbaum, who's one of the founders of FMCA, and learned about functional medicine. And it just blew my mind. Like, this is what I've been needing for so many years. So, and that was about 5 years ago. So.
Well, we're really glad that we brought you out of the corporate world into our world.
Yes, you did, with open arms.
Very, very grateful. Thank you so much. I know that all of you had very busy days, so thank you for taking this little break to join us. And we're hoping to have you join us again in the future, maybe for more of these Q&As, but we just wanted to introduce you to everybody so that they could see your beautiful faces and just know who they're possibly going to be working with.
Yes, who's the team? Who's the team? And so let me take a moment to say hello to, let's see, Eileen's in Ireland, Kelly's in Indiana, Lynn Johnson's in South Australia, Mia's in North Wales, Terry's here from San Diego, frozen San Diego, okay. Sharon's here from Costa Rica, Marilyn's from Newfoundland, Kat Johnson's in Kentucky, Jacqueline's in snowy British Columbia, and the list goes on. And we're really glad to welcome you all to Facebook Live and to introduce you to our team, that these are the people on theDr.com's clinical services team who've gone through all the extensive training to help you dial down, how do I begin to turn around the mechanisms that triggered whatever it is that I'm dealing with. So as Michelle said, thank you all for joining us. And Michelle, you and I will continue now with the Q&As from everyone. Thanks everyone for being here. Thank you so much. Okay.
See you later.
So Michelle, do you have our first question?
Yes, I just thought it would be great to jump into talking about Lyme disease, because it's a call that I just recently had. And it's great that we have comprehensive testing now. Vibrant has this great test that looks at IgM, which is indicating a likely recent exposure to Lyme, IgG, which is more likely a chronic exposure, and it's looking at co-infectant testing. It's also looking at DNA, so it's a really comprehensive test. And we also have a panel that includes wheat zoomer, lectin zoomer, and neural zoomer plus. So it's a really great comprehensive panel. So I just had the opportunity to review that with somebody. But I always like to point out that usually by the time that people get, like Lyme is showing up, there's usually something else going on, because I'm of the belief system that usually by the time somebody is feeling the symptoms and gets the diagnosis of Lyme, there's usually other compromises in the body. Now, I know that there's no hard and fast rule, and nothing is black and white, right? Somebody could get a tick bite and a bullseye rash, and they could get Lyme disease. But I think sometimes there's GI compromises, right? There's imbalances, there's dysbiosis, there's insufficiency where they don't have enough of the beneficial flora, or maybe there's immune suppression, right? Where there's not enough of the, or there's the total immunoglobulins when we look at that, or maybe white blood cell count. So when you look at that whole big picture, right, in functional medicine, and we're getting down to the root cause, there's layers and layers and layers underneath the Lyme disease diagnosis. So if we just go in and shotgun a bunch of antibiotics, is that the answer? Or do we need to?
Yeah, that's a really good point. Let me jump in there and say, so first for everyone, what Michelle's talking about is a blood test, a couple of different blood tests that we now have available that are really specific and better than anything before that's ever come out anywhere in the world. They're very good. And as the geek that Michelle is, she and I just geek out all the time, you know, about these tests that are out now, because they give us the tools to identify so much easier what's cooking in there, what's happening, and why is it happening. And as Michelle's saying, most people, that if you suspect something like Lyme disease, their bodies are usually pretty worn out. It's something that can occur immediately. You know, you get a tick bite and it might happen. But what we find for the vast majority of people, there's been something wearing down their system for a long time. And this tick bite or this Lyme condition is the straw that broke the camel's back. And just shotgunning in a protocol to treat Lyme disease may help a percentage of people get better. But when you look at a deeper picture, you get so much more, so much more. We're going to dive into that a little bit more. But first, I want to do a little more shout out. We've got Anita from Denmark, Liz from the UK, Jennifer's from Maine. Someone said Melissa's from the Northern Five Guys. Hi from Northern Five Guys of Northwest Indiana. Okay. And there was someone that said it's my first Dr. Tom event. Oh, here it is. Alicia says, I'm in Phoenicia, New York. It's my first Dr. Tom Facebook Live. Well, welcome, Alicia. Hopefully you get some ahas out of it. You know, our goal here, everyone, is to create the environment to help all of us shift our paradigm, shift the way we think. You know, I did an interview a couple of hours ago for a radio station, and people keep asking the same thing. What do you do for this? Or what do you do for that? You know, what's the treatment for Lyme disease? Or what's the treatment for non-alcoholic fatty liver disease? And what we all have to learn, one of the paradigms that's going to help everyone stay healthier in the years to come, and your families, you and your children, is to get out of the pharmaceutical model of thinking. You know, it's been drilled into all of us is take this pill and you'll feel better. You know, so we always think, what's the thing that I can take to help me feel better? Where the question that now needs to be asked most of the time, I mean, there's acute things that happen, of course, but most of the time, these are chronic conditions because the body's wearing down. And it's, what is the lifestyle that has set me up for what I've got right now? What set me up? And that's the way that I'm hoping people will start thinking more. How come my daughter's got her second ear infection in a year? Well, it's normal to have ear infections. No, it's not. It's not normal. It's common, but it's not normal. So why is your daughter on her second ear infection in 1 year, or the fourth ear infection in 5 years? Well, 1 a year is not bad. Yes, it is. It's an immune system that's compromised. We can't accept that, you know, that, oh, it's so common, lots of kids have this. Well, that doesn't mean it's normal, right? So let me, I'm going to butcher this name. How do you say Hripsime? Hripsme is here from Newport Beach. I'm so sorry, I didn't say that correctly. Mia's here. Mia's, if I remember, Mia's in, Mia, aren't you in Australia? I think so.
North Wales.
North Wales, oh, thank you, yes. And she's here every week. Thank you, Mia. It's really great to see that you're here. Let's see, who else is here? Carolyn's here from Arizona, and Melissa says, oops, not sure how that happened. It was supposed to be just Northern Indiana. Well, it was kind of cool, the 4 guys from Northern Indiana. Gabriella's here from Peru. Hello, Gabriella, thank you so much. Kelly's here from the chilly Midwest. Angela's a fellow Hoosier, and the list goes on and on. So thank you all. Okay, Michelle, let's do that Lyme disease question.
Okay, so here's another comment that came in when we were reviewing a wheat zoomer. So that kind of heavy sigh. And so Dr. Tom talks on these summits, and he says that you have to be really squeaky clean, and you can't even have a little bit of gluten, or it just, you know, the antibodies stay up. So that just feels overwhelming.
That's so very true. It is overwhelming. It is overwhelming. You know, I've just read a study that came out this year, last month, that 24% of celiac children cheat on gluten-free diets. Now, the same group wrote a paper 4 years ago, and it was 42%. So in the last few years, it's come down quite a bit, which is really great, but 24% means 1 out of 4. They cheat because it's difficult if you don't know how to set it up correctly. It really is difficult if you don't know what to do. And, you know, you're trying, because wheat is 25 to 40% of the calories in the standard American diet. 25 to 40% of all the calories come from bread and pasta and cookies and muffins and rolls and you know, so how do you tell people you got to stay away from this? Especially as some of our patients who have done the wheat zoomer know, if you've got positive antibodies to one of the clumps of poorly digested wheat called gluteomorphins, those are the people that say, oh, I don't need wheat, I just like it. They just like it because it's stimulating the opiate receptors in their brain, just like opium would. And they're called endorphins, exorphins, these chemicals in wheat called gluteomorphins, or these chemicals in dairy called casomorphins, or they're also in spinach, and they're called exorphins in spinach, that stimulate the feel-good receptors in your brain. Now, why? It's really interesting. The question, why do we like wheat so much? Well, that's one of the reasons why. And people that have elevated antibodies to these exorphins, they're the ones that have a harder time giving up wheat. So when we do our blood tests and those components come back positive, we always let people know that, it's okay if we transition you slowly, because you're likely to have a little bit of a rougher time if you don't really do this comprehensively. What do you mean, Doc? I'm fine, I could do this. Yeah, I know, but you've got these elevated antibodies to gluteomorphins, and that means they're stimulating the opiate receptors in your brain right now. And so it's almost like an addiction that you have. Oh, I'm not addicted to it, I just like it. No, I understand, but let's just take it a little slower, let's just transit. Let's get all the breakfasts first. So let's start with 2 breakfasts a week that are gluten-free. And then in a couple of weeks, we'll go to 4 breakfasts a week as you learn more options of what's available to you. And then you just have to transition them slowly. But that's very common for people. So back to, Michelle, your question was—
One more comment on that, Dr. Tom. Once they do transition, we sometimes want to rationalize with those elevated gluteomorphin prodynorphin to have birthday cake on our birthday. But we wouldn't rationalize having heroin on our birthday, right?
It's a really good point.
So we really can't be like, oh, I'm just going to celebrate, because it's almost like we're celebrating with a little heroin, right? Because it's stimulating those same receptor sites.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Yael, Y-A-E-L, Yael Braca Weinberg is here from Israel. Hello, Yael. Thank you for joining us. And there's a question: does potato starch help with healing the gut? I have to say, I don't know. I don't think I've ever seen a study. And Michelle, do you know about that?
Well, there is some research that shows if you cook potatoes or you cook rice and then you cool it in the refrigerator, it can become resistant starch, and that can have some beneficial impact on the gut. But you have to cook it, and then you have to cool it, and then reheat it if you want to have it warm. So it's a bit of a process, takes a little bit more effort, but there is some indication that that can be beneficial.
All right, Michelle, thank you so much for that. Thank you.
Adriana says, any advice, this is an awesome question, Dr. Tom, any advice on how to rebalance short chain fatty acids through diet? My Genova test results show that they are imbalanced and very low.
That's a really good question. So for everyone out there, what are short chain fatty acids? They're some of the really important exhaust of the good bacteria in your gut. You've heard me say so many times, some of you have heard me, because I say it a lot, for every 1 message from the brain going down to the gut, there are 9 messages from the gut going up to the brain. So who's controlling who, right? And the geek term is modulates. It's a good Scrabble word, that the gut modulates brain function. What does that mean? It means it has its hands on the steering wheel. The gut has its hands on the steering wheel of what's going on in your brain. So just turn your steering wheel 5 degrees to the right. Just alter your short chain fatty acids a little bit from where they should be. 20 yards down the road, you're off the road. So what does that mean? It means like your brain's not working quite right. You might have a little more anxiety or a little more depression. And those short chain fatty acids, there's many of them, but the 3 big kahunas are butyrate, propionate, and acetate. Those are the 3 big ones. And how are they produced? The action of the bacteria in your gut on prebiotic fibers from the vegetables that you eat, mostly vegetables, convert those fibers into those 3 amino acids, or those 3 short chain fatty acids and others. So it's the action of the probiotics in the gut, the good bacteria in the gut, on vegetable fiber, primarily vegetable fiber. Butyrate is the one that the most research has been done on in terms of its benefits. Number of studies show it heals the gut, and now I've got some studies that are showing it heals the blood-brain barrier. Butyrate heals a leaky brain. And for those of you that haven't had a chance yet to pick up this book, please do. You can fix your brain. Please pick it up. And we talk about the short chain fatty acids in there quite a bit. But how do you increase your short chain fatty acids? Eat more root vegetables and alternate the root vegetables. Don't eat just carrots every day or just sweet potatoes. Have a rutabaga and a turnip and a parsnip and a Jerusalem artichoke, and also go on Google, to that great library in the sky, Google, and type in list of prebiotic foods, not probiotic, prebiotic foods, and print it out. And you have 2 foods from that list every day and 1 root vegetable every day. And you will build more good short chain fatty acids by doing that. The other thing is applesauce will increase short chain fatty acids. Michelle, do you want to talk about the applesauce connection?
Yes, so make your own at home. If you have any sugar dysregulation, go for the lowest sugar apples. So like the Granny Smith, cut it up, put it in a little bit of water, simmer it on the stove. So you don't want to boil it, just simmer it. So you keep the enzymes, put a little cinnamon in there if you want to. And then you can put it in there, keep it in the refrigerator, eat some warm. And it's great to have some in the refrigerator all the time. If you have intestinal permeability, you might want to rotate this in, because anything that we eat every day, we have the risk of becoming sensitive to that food. So put it in the rotation, but that's really important. Fermented foods, if you can handle it. So we have to step back. This is all like everything Dr. Tom is saying is so important. And this is so important for keeping a healthy gut healthy. And if your gut hasn't gone too far off the rails, for getting it back on the rails, right? It's that diversity. We should be eating 40 to 50 different plant-based foods every week. So that variety, that diversity, right? I mean, this vegetable fiber is our gut bug's favorite food, right, Dr. Tom? And it naturally ferments in our intestines. So if you can handle the fermented vegetables too, add that in, and it feeds the beneficial flora. They in turn feed they make the short chain fatty acids that feed those enterocytes that line the cells of the gut. So it's that beautiful synergistic, we feed them, they feed us, right? Sometimes when people have small intestinal bacteria overgrowth, SIBO or SIFO, they can't handle all of this vegetable variety. So then they have to take oral butyrate or these oral short chain fatty acids, and they have to do that for a period of time while they're working on healing the gut.
Yeah, you have to take it slow. I'd like to continue with this topic, but I'm going to answer a quick question here.
Sure.
Teresa Jones says, can I watch this later? I'm a truck driver. Yes, Teresa, it'll be here on our Facebook Live page, as all the other Facebook Lives are on our Facebook page. You will be able to watch it later. Drive safely, and thanks for tuning in for the time that you could. You know, it's interesting. Michelle said something a little different than what I usually say, and on the apples and making the applesauce. And that is, she said, you know, keep the heat low. And that's a great way of doing it. Probably, I'm not aware of that way. The way I learned it was you add water to 1/3 the height of the apples in the pot, turn it on high, boil it for 8 to 12 minutes. until there's a shine on the skin of the apples. And that shine is the pectin that's being released from the apple. But I would assume that if you cooked it slowly, it'll take longer. But how do you know when it's done? You want to look for that shine on the skin of the apples. That means the pectin that's in the meat and buried in the skin has been released and it's more available. That pectin stimulates in your small intestine probably the most potent enzyme in your intestine called intestinal alkaline phosphatase, IAP. And that does so many good things for us. That's why a couple of tablespoons of applesauce a day is really great for you. And Braeburn apples, the studies I've read, 2 studies referred to Braeburn as being the best for their pectin content. I don't like Braeburn apples. I don't eat them. They're a little bitter to me. You know, I like sweeter ones. But so what I'll sometimes do is I'll use if when I'm shopping, there's a number of different organic apples available. I'll buy 3 or 4 different types. I just throw them all in there. You know, I don't care. You know, I'm a guy. I'm just going to throw it all in the pot and do its thing, and add a little cinnamon and all that to it. But whether you cook it quickly, which Michelle's right, you'll lose some of the enzymes if you do that. And that's a very good point I'd never thought of before. Or you cook it slowly over a longer period of time. You just cook it until the shine on the skin. That's when you know you've reached that therapeutic level of releasing the pectin. And you give it to your kids every day, a couple tablespoons a day. You don't need a big bowl of it, enough to throw your blood sugar off. Just a couple of tablespoons is, I'm happy if you get a couple tablespoons. That'll do the job by itself.
And it's delicious, such a treat. And I usually, it'll cook in about 15 minutes on a slow simmer.
Oh, good, good. And there's a question here from Alicia. Would the applesauce work if you keep it raw? I'm not sure how you do raw. Oh, maybe through a grinder or something, but not quite the same, Alicia, because the cooking process releases the pectin. And although our bodies will get the pectin further down the digestive tract, I want it released in the first part of the small intestine. I want it available right in the first part of the small intestine as soon as the food comes out of the stomach, because that's where the sentries are standing guard to protect you. They're called dendritic cells. And that's why celiac disease is a disease of the first part of the small intestine primarily. That's where it begins, because that's where the inflammation begins. That if that area gets inflamed, that triggers the systemic inflammation, meaning inflammation throughout your whole body. That's where the triggers get set off for inflammation throughout your whole body. That's why in the digestive enzymes, we talk about how important it is to have these digestive enzymes that work within 60 minutes to break down wheat, any inadvertent exposure to wheat, because there's lots of enzymes out there that work in 3 hours to 6 hours. So they'll protect your large intestine, but they don't protect the small intestine. So I suspect the same thing would be true with raw applesauce, that it may not increase intestinal alkaline phosphatase in the first part of the small intestine as much as cooked applesauce will, because the pectin's been released. And I'm just making that up. I've never seen a study, that compares the two. It's a really good question. Well, what about raw applesauce? Well, okay, but it doesn't release the pectin until you cook it. It's harder to get the pectin out of the meat of the apple. So probably it would come out further down the digestive tract, which is good, but we want it in the beginning of the digestive tract, the beginning of the small intestine.
And there's probably other benefits to raw apples, but this specific benefit is from the cooked apples.
Yeah. This is why, by the way, an apple a day keeps the doctor away. This is where it came from. It's the pectin in the apples is a primary healing agent in the apples. And this is the mechanism how it works, is it stimulates the production of intestinal alkaline phosphatase. So it's really cool when we found those studies. And it's, oh, well, that's why an apple a day keeps the doctor away. Well, that makes sense because there's some science to it now. Okay.
Yeah, and it's easy to have compliance with that one.
Yes. Yes.
Okay, Sil says, I have a compromised immune system. I have AIH and PBC, osteoporosis. I'm on 12 different pills a day to stay alive. I eat clean and try to stay active. I live in the moment and take my meds. I definitely feel better eating gluten-free.
Yeah, living in the moment is really important, and I might interpret part of that as meaning that you're meditating, and that's a crucial thing to do when someone is not well, as in this case. And these are all diseases that have developed over a long period of time, right? They didn't happen yesterday. And sure enough, AIH is autoimmune hepatitis, PBC is primary biliary cirrhosis. Those are nasties. Osteoporosis by itself is not great. But on the autoimmune hepatitis, Mayo Clinic refers to celiac hepatitis and gluten hepatitis. So for you, is it Sil, C-I-L, Sil Santos? Really important to do the wheat Zoomer for two reasons. One, it identifies the intestinal permeability. If you have intestinal permeability, it's so to give you something to focus on to heal the environment of the gut. But two, it identifies, and you feel better eating gluten-free. That kind of sounds like I definitely feel better eating gluten-free. It doesn't sound like you're gluten-free all the time. You may be, but it would be good to see what your current level of gluten-free is doing for you. Has your immune system calmed down in those areas? Because wheat by itself has been associated directly, as I said, with celiac hepatitis. Wheat causes hepatitis for those people, autoimmune hepatitis. And wheat sensitivity can contribute to fuel or cause the osteoporosis. And the PBC, there's a couple of studies on wheat sensitivity and PBC. They're not as direct or as strong, if you will, of studies. But the first step in slowing down the sclerosis of your gallbladder duct is to calm down the inflammation. And what's in your liver that's being excreted goes through the gallbladder. And so where's the inflammation in your gallbladder coming from? Well, likely it's coming from the itis in your liver. In your case, it's hepatitis. It's an itis, whether it's bursitis, arthritis, conjunctivitis, hepatitis, it's an itis, which means an inflammation. So the question is it gasoline or kerosene? Where is the inflammation coming from? That's the really important mechanism to look at for you. Where is the inflammation coming from? And that's what our clinical services team does. That's why we brought them on today, so that you can see, who are the faces behind all of those great messages that come out and the questions that get answered and the consults that you have. And so I would suggest, Sil, that you're investigating more and more, whereas first confirming if there's still an itis going on from wheat, which I would suspect there is, and that would mean you need to be taking the E3 Advanced Plus before every meal, because so many people say, but I am gluten-free. Well, okay, you may be being thorough in not choosing to eat wheat, but the antibodies are elevated, so we have to find out why they're elevated, and that's what our team does. Okay.
Right. And we don't always feel that. I mean, I guess it was several months ago, did a Cyrex Array 5 interpretation with somebody, and it was pretty significantly out of range for that's the multiple autoimmune reactivity screen. And there were probably 10 of the 24 markers that were out of range. And we talked about how gluten could be a key component. And this person said, I don't feel any different when I go gluten-free. And I said, well, let's just do a wheat zoomer. And that wheat zoomer was lit up like a Christmas tree, right? So we can't always go by how we're feeling. But if this person is noticing that you feel better without it, then it's really important to go squeaky clean. And sometimes we need those test results to motivate us, right?
Yeah, we do.
The squeaky clean.
We do. A couple more shout outs. Antoinette is here from Ellsworth, Maine. She put a couple of M's in there for Maine. Ellsworth, Maine Yoga Adventures. Wendell asked the question about potato starch that we answered. Jacqueline says, I'm trying to be the good example for my family. I'm following my mom's footsteps, not just jumping to prescriptions. I use natural remedies for healing. Way to go, Jacqueline. Deborah says, hi, Dr. Tom. Thanks for all your help with autoimmune issues. Thank you. Thank you so much. Paul is here from Alaska. Hey, Paula. David Turner is here from Wellington, New Zealand. David, thank you for joining. Thank you so much. Boy, it's so great to see people from all over the world. You know, it makes it fun for us. And then you guys throw all those hearts up there and, you know, the stars and, you know, I see all that and it makes me like a little kid, you know, everybody likes, remember when I was a scout, I liked getting the stars, you know, you get the 5 silver and then 1 gold star and 5 silver and 1 gold. And it was always fun. So seeing all the hearts you do just keeps me motivated and wanting to do more. Oh, Cheryl O'Brien says, advice on malabsorption and insulin resistance, high fecal fat, high long chain fatty acids, low short chain fatty acids, low butyrate. Oh, here come all the hearts. Thank you, everyone. That's really nice. Thank you. Cheryl, the first thing to do that we would do with you is a HOMA score. Why? Because the HOMA score is the measure. Oh, look, the hearts are still coming and the happy faces. Thank you. You see what it does to me? I'm like a little kid at heart, and I like to see all that stuff. That's really great. So HOMA, just go to theDr.com/HOMA, H-O-M-A. I just looked at it again today. I just watched the video that I put there today, and I said, oh, that's a good video. So, and I put 6 studies there about HOMA, and you can download the studies, take them to your doctor and say, hey, please do this blood test. It's the simplest blood test, but a HOMA score gives you the measurement of your insulin resistance. Is your body using insulin properly, or is the body resistant to insulin? And what you want is more insulin. So there's more hearts coming. Thank you. They just keep coming. Is your body using insulin? Is it sensitive to insulin, which is what you want, or is it insulin resistant? You just do a fasting blood sugar and insulin level in your blood, and you plug it into the formula that we give you there at our website, theDr.com/HOMA. Just plug it in there, and it should be below 1.5. If it's above that, you got insulin resistance. And then you talk to our team as to how do you start to turn that around. Okay, Michelle, can you continue?
Yes, so I'm listening to a really interesting book by David Sinclair called Lifespan, and he's a researcher on longevity at Harvard. And he talks about how before long, it's going to just be pretty mainstream to have these these glucose monitors just in the back of our arms, right? And it's going to be easy to be able to tell if by eating grapes that spikes your blood sugar, or what, you know, maybe it's steak that spikes your blood sugar. But there are ways to monitor that at home. It's a little bit more tedious. It just takes journaling, right? And just getting a glucometer, right? It's a little painful to do the prick, but monitor your glucose first thing in the morning, and then monitor it 2 hours after a meal, and really write down what you're eating and make sure it doesn't spike above 140 2 hours after a meal. And you've got to adjust your fat and your protein and your carbohydrates to make sure that your blood sugar is stable, because blood sugar is foundational to healing. And if your blood sugar is doing this all day long, that's where all the energy is going. And there's not a lot of energy to go towards healing or all of these other things. So that's really foundational. So, ask your doctor for fasting glucose, hemoglobin A1C, insulin. Those markers are really, really important. And that's, a place where we start in functional medicine. Those are really important first line markers for us.
Yeah.
Yeah, but those are that's something that you can do at home for relatively inexpensive. That's something that you can get at a pharmacy. Okay.
Liz Kennedy asks, and Liz is from the UK. Liz, I'm coming to the UK. I'm lecturing in London on the last Saturday in February. And then 2 weeks later, I think it is, I'm back in Bristol at the Chai Sawel, which I don't know what that stands for, CHY-SAWEL conference. But anyway, I'll be there a couple times in this next month. And she asks, does leaky gut vary from mild to severe, or is the same gut everyone? Same from a person who doesn't consume gluten, other than that has been exposed to gluten through cross-contamination. So your gut is about 20, 25 feet long. It kind of winds around in the center in there. Now, inside the gut, there is shag carpeting lining the inside of the gut. In England, they call it pile, I think. And so if this is the shags or the pile, so you've got the tube, and the inside of the tube is lined with pile, all of this in there. If you could stretch the gut out, completely stretch it out flat, stretch out all the surfaces of the pile, of the shags, it's the size of a badminton tennis court. It's unbelievable how big the size is. It's larger than the room I'm in. This flattened out surface, that's our gut. That's how much surface there is on the tube. How do you think about that? If you walk a mile of beach, you're in a nice area and you're walking the beach and you walk for a mile, you've walked a mile. But if in that mile, the beach kind of curves in, the water goes in a little bit and out and in and out a few times, like pile or like shags, and you walk a mile, you've walked a mile and a half in footsteps. But it's a mile in distance, but it's a mile and a half in footsteps. That's the inside of our gut. And that tissue, when you get tears in that tissue, the leaky gut, if you will, everybody gets tears in that tissue, transient intestinal permeability, every time they eat wheat. Well, what do you mean? Well, that's what the studies show. Everyone. Every time, every human, if you're a human, it happens to you. But well, where is it happening in this badminton court of surface? Well, it depends. It could be over on that side, it could be over there, it could be over there. But the fastest growing cells in the body are the inside lining of the gut, and you heal every 3 days. Some studies say 5 days, just depends on the study. But so you have toast for breakfast, you tear the lining over there, and it heals. You have the sandwich for lunch, you tear the lining over there, and it heals. You have pasta for dinner, you tear the lining over here, and it heals. So it depends on the individual how much tearing occurs. It depends on the environment inside the tube. We call that the microbiome. The good bacteria in the gut, all of that. If you have an inflammatory microbiome, a really bad microbiome like small intestinal bacterial overgrowth and that type of thing, if you've got that going on, you got more tears. And there's trying to heal, but there's more tears. And these little molecules get through into the bloodstream. And so we're talking about over years this happens. It's this tiny amount. When you see the videos of how that happens, maybe I'll show that video. Michelle, let's take another question, and I'm going to find the video here while we do.
Luann asks, eye floaters, eye flashers, what nutrition do I need?
Okay, that's most often I have found that to be a toxicity condition. So the question is, where's the toxicity come from? It may have a nutritional component to it, but that's not where I go first. I look to detoxing with eye floaters. That's the first thing I look at.
Okay. So would you check liver enzymes? Would you check a toxicity panel, like a Cyrex Array 11?
Yeah, well, it depends. I'd certainly do the wheat zoomer and look for intestinal permeability. If you have markers of intestinal permeability, that's the place where I'd start. But then there's a number of tests that can be done in our office. When I was seeing patients in the office, we do a urinary indican profile that gives us a real good sense of protein toxicity in the gut. So it depends on the individual as to where might that be coming from. What tests can I recommend they do on the blood test? Well, I'd be looking to see where is the toxicity coming from. Is it food sensitivities? Is it heavy metals? Is it chemical toxicities? Where is it coming from? Okay, I'm going to
go ahead.
Okay, I'm going to share my screen here for a moment so I can show you this video. So bear with me while I do this, please. And Michelle, tell me when it comes up on screen.
What's up?
Okay, so this is called confocal endomicroscopy. It's a really geek term. I just love saying that. And it's a camera that's in the gut. This is the human gut here. You're looking at cells in the lining of the intestines. These are just cells. And what they did, they injected people with a white dye, and they injected it into a vein that they knew going back up into the body from the leg, it was going to go right past the gut. And so you're seeing this white here inside the cells, the blood vessels inside the cells. Now, the camera is inside the tube, inside the lumen of the intestines. So we're looking at the walls of the cells from inside the tube. And then they expose these people to wheat. Now I'm going to start it here, and this is still shots over 5 minutes that plays in about a minute or so. So I'm going to hit go. Now you just watch what happens here as we watch the white dye. And you see how the white dye is coming more towards the surface here of the lumen. Now you see there's some white dye over here in the bottom, in the lower right side. And now you look up and you see in the upper right side, the white dye is leaking out. And now you're seeing it over here in the center, in the upper center area. This is intestinal permeability, or the leaky gut, in reverse. When they expose the gut to wheat, this dye is out in the lumen within 5 minutes. And when I show that video in seminars, the docs, they just sit, they go, wow, wow. And for some of you, it may be hard to visualize where we are in there, but that's showing leaky gut when it's happening. And it happens within 5 minutes of the wheat getting out of the stomach into the small intestine within 5 minutes. That's why you always have to take E3 Advanced Plus before you start eating, so that nothing comes out of the stomach that's not fully digested, because that's where the leaky gut occurs.
That was fascinating. Thank you. I've seen it before, but it's just always good to be reminded of it. It's so cool that they have the technology for that.
Yes, yes, it is. Yes, it is.
I wanted to just go back to what you were saying about toxicity, and how all of us right now can just go through our house, go to your laundry room, and just think about your cleaning detergent, think about what's under your sink right now. And before you purchase anything else, go to the environmental working group and see what it's rated. And if you're walking down that aisle in a drugstore, in a big box store, in a grocery store, and you smell a fragrance, don't buy it.
That's right.
You know,
right.
We can all lower our toxicity by not wearing our shoes in our house and just cleaning up the cosmetics that we're using and what we're cleaning our houses with. And there's just so many things that we can do on a daily basis. We vote with how we, how we spend our money. And
yeah, if you go to the theDr.com for recommended products, you'll see my green refills, and they use organic, non-toxic substances. So you buy their laundry detergent and they send you a big jug of laundry detergent, but then the refills they send you, you just put it in the same jug. They send you a disposable container of refills, and then you put it in the same jug to store it and use it, and you're reducing your waste, your footprint of garbage that we're throwing out all the time. And their products are really great. They are non-toxic. We've been using them now for a few years. We love them. And they've got everything from window cleaner to laundry detergent to dishwashing soap to dishwasher soap, all the things that you use every day. As Michelle's talking about the toxicity of those things, go to theDr.com. I don't think it's /mygreen refills. I think you have to go to the recommended section, and it's in there. Actually, Tiffany will check and she'll post it here for everyone before we're done.
great.
Someone asked the question, there is no pre-made organic unsweetened applesauce to use. No, there's not. It has to be fresh. You can't use the commercial stuff. I don't know why, but the maybe the pectin evaporates or breaks down and doesn't have the same benefit. It's the studies that I've seen, it's always fresh apples, fresh applesauce that they do that with. Do you cook the apples whole or cut them up? You wash them, always organic, but wash them, and then you dice them, throwing away the seeds. You don't want to use the seeds, but aside from that, you can use the core, the other parts of the core, bite-sized pieces, and just throw in the water and the cinnamon and a couple of raisins if you want, and turn it on, and it's done pretty quick. Have your kids help you do it, so they feel like they're making their food, right? And every day you have a couple of tablespoons of it. Are they the apples we call cooking apples? I think any apples will work. The Braeburn apples have, as far as I know, the highest concentration of pectin in apples. I think that's why Braeburn are recommended.
Gravenstein is supposed to be good as well.
And Red Delicious, I know, have been used in a number of studies. But I'll just use whatever apples are available. Well, they're not the highest content of pectin. I don't care. They're better than none, right? We don't have to be fanatical about this. We use the best that we can.
Right. I mean, it's ideal to do organic because apples are sprayed 70 plus times, but it's always interesting for me to see somebody that's, holding a bag of Cheetos and they're eating those and they're refusing to eat the non-organic apple. So, I mean, let's be rational, right? Okay, Alicia says, if there's a food you are sensitive to, is it possible the fermented version of the same food won't have the same effect?
Oh, that's really an interesting question. The answer is, I don't know. It is possible that the cooked food will not give you the same immune reaction as the raw food. Dr. Vojdani has done a lot of research on that and published a couple of papers, but I don't know about the fermented version versus the raw version. I would suspect possibly it may not, but I just don't know. Michelle, do you know more about that?
I haven't read any science on that.
Yeah,
it's a possibility, but I don't know. I can't advise. I would err on the side of caution if I had a sensitivity, unless I was looking at an IgG food sensitivity and I was sensitive to 60 of the 96 foods, then I would just focus on healing the gut and really rotating foods.
Yeah.
Okay, Kat says there's a holistic doctor who's making the rounds in seminars saying that calcium is poison. He advocated huge amounts of vitamin C as something along with a healthy diet that will be enough for us in menopause to get our calcium. Otherwise, he says that calcium supplements, even holistic ones, will clog our arteries and cause heart issues. What do you think? I have osteoporosis, so could vitamin C and eating healthy? I'm vegan work. Vitamin C is causing constipation too.
Well, he's right and he's wrong. It was Dr. Carrie Reams back in the 1970s. I remember, you know, when I was in my education and there were these guys that I was reading about who were really out there talking about this stuff, but they were dealing when they're absolutely right. So this doctor is right that our ancestors, the ratio of calcium to magnesium that they got, and they stayed strong, their bones were strong. You occasionally find a skeleton of someone that had osteoporosis, but the vast majority of skeletons that they find from 1,000, 2,000, 3,000 years ago, they weren't osteoporotic. Occasionally you find one that was, but it wasn't that common. What was their amount of calcium to magnesium? It was 4 parts magnesium to 1 part calcium. What do we do in this world today? 4 parts calcium to 1 part magnesium. We completely reverse it. And you look at the studies that came out in the 80s and 90s that in the Asian cultures, they didn't even have a word for osteoporosis until the Western diet came over and dairy products came over. And then they, within 1 generation, I think in some countries 1 generation, in other countries within 2 generations, their osteoporosis rate's the same as the US because they're having so much calcium from dairy products. You know, the dairy industry did all that with milk as a natural kind of thing. So this doctor is absolutely right that it's much better to have more magnesium than more calcium. Much, much better. But the utilization of the minerals in your food is modulated so much by the bacteria in your gut. So it's critically important that you work on your microbiome. You have osteoporosis, work on the microbiome. You have arthritis, work on the microbiome. You have multiple sclerosis, work on the microbiome. You have to include working on the microbiome with anything you do. That's why we always talk about the prebiotics with root vegetables and 2 others from the list from Google, right? And then the probiotics, eating fermented vegetables every day and alternating them every day from kimchi to sauerkraut to miso to fermented beets to curry flavored, whatever flavors you want, you know, but alternate them every day. Well, I don't like the taste of fermented vegetables. I don't care if you like it or not. You don't have to taste it. Hide it in the mashed potatoes, hide it in the soup, throw it in, mix it in your salad dressing. You don't have to taste it. You just have to get it down there to do its job, because when you eat fermented foods every day, just a little bit, you increase the amount of bacteria in your gut 10,000-fold. 10,000-fold. That's not double is 2-fold. Triple is 3-fold. 10,000-fold by having fermented vegetables every day. Microbiome is the key. If there's only one system you're going to work on to be healthy, it's your digestive tract and your microbiome. Nothing has its hands on the steering wheel more than your digestive tract does. That's why there are so many hundreds of studies literally coming out every month now on the microbiome and the good bacteria and how to feed the good bacteria. Critically, critically important that is foundational in all of your health efforts for everyone. Critically important. Now, it's 2:04 a.m. my time. And I mean, the time just flies, but it's time to go. But listen, Michelle and I do this once a month with Michelle, and I do it once a week with you guys. And I want you to take 2 minutes after we leave here today, take 2 minutes and send a message to someone who would have benefited from listening to this. tell them to go to theDr.com, at Facebook, theDr.com, and watch this and like us. So that when you hit the like button on Facebook, more people will hear about this. So please, please, please take a moment to just share this so we can reach more people. We aren't charging you for this. You know, we love doing this, right? I love all the little hearts and stuff that happen, but we need to reach as many people in the world as we can. So please help us do that in any way you can. So like this page, make a comment there. Facebook looks at all that stuff, right? And then they'll make our announcement, you know, in 4 hours, you know, theDr.com will be doing their Facebook Live. They'll send it out to more people. Also, we have the SMS text now. We can text you the day of Facebook Live and say, hey, in 4 hours, Dr. Tom is interviewing ... whoever that person is. Or in the first Tuesday of the month, Dr. Tom and Michelle will be doing Q&As. So if you'd like to do the SMS, if you'd like us to let you know who's going to be on Facebook Live today, every week, Tiffany will post where you can click to register and, you know, give us your cell phone number, and we'll send you the text message announcing that who I'm talking with that day. And with that, I'm going to say, Michelle, thank you so very much. It always goes so fast.
Goes so fast. Thank you, Dr. Tom. And thank you, everybody, for joining us.
Thanks, everybody. Bye-bye. And thank you, Tiffany. And bye-bye, everyone.